Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to Royal Table Talk. My name is Latoya Conway Hampton, and I am your host. And today we're going to have a conversation about red flags. And constantly we're recycling this information. But a lot of times we miss red flags, but they're right before us, waving in our face like this, and then we overlook them. We overlook them because we want to be in a relationship. We overlook them because we don't want conflict. We overlook them because sometimes we don't even know what a red flag is. And so I wanted to come to you today to have this conversation about identifying what red flags are in an abusive personality, in an abusive relationship, in an abusive friendship. So, first red flag is abusive controlling behaviors. It include fear and intimidation. Abusive relationships are very intimidating. It's very controlling. Is They're jealous. And so I'm going to give you some bullet points on each topic that I cover, okay? Controlling behavior, not allowing you to go see your friends, wanting to know who you with, where you going, when you'll be back. In a healthy relationship, you have the freedom to be you. Now, even though you have the freedom to be you in a healthy relationship, it's very important that you let your partner know, hey, I'm running out to the store, not for permission, but in case something happens, they know where you are. Okay? Controlling behaviors, not allowing you to be yourself, not allowing you to go. Say, for instance, there's a family gathering and you're interested to go. However, your partner who is isolating you says, oh, no, just stay home with me. I love you so much. I just want you home with me, just me and you against the world. Don't hang out with your friends. Don't hang out with your mom. Don't hang out with your family. Let's just let it just be us. A healthy relationship encourage you to go out and be with other people. Actually try to push you out to be around other people so you can have the opportunity to grow and to develop as a person. If you're in the house all the time, just you and your partner, there's something missing. There's something lacking. Granted, I love my husband to death. I would love for him to be just me and him all the time. But that's not reality. The reality is he have friends, I have family, I have people that I need to talk to. So isolation is definitely a form of control, of abuse, and it's a red flag. So if you enter into a relationship and they're like, no, it's just us, and I just want it to be us, run, right? And if you are in a relationship and you're encouraging your partner just to be you and them, then I need you to take a look at what type of behaviors that you have. Those are controlling and isolating behaviors. It's unhealthy for you to dictate and control where your partner goes, who your partner sees. And let me go a little bit deeper. If you're in a relationship and you feel like you need to control where your partner go and see and what they do, you might want to look at the relationship. Granted, some relationships and some people do things that you wouldn't do, then you ought to take a look at that relationship overall. Is that something that you want to do? Is that a person that you want to be with? Do you want to spend time in your spirit not knowing who your partner is around, what they're doing? Are they controlling where you go? Are you controlling where they go and who they see? Earlier in my relationship, I remember I'm in recovery and so is my husband. And I remember one day he went because we do panels and go to meetings and we hug a lot. It's just a part of recovery. Have nothing to do with trying to come on to a person or anything. But I remember early in recovery, he gave me a hug and he smelled like perfume. And so in my head, the old person I used to be, I would have snapped and we'd have been arguing and all of these things. But because I'm a much healthier, responsible person, I know he just went to a meeting. One of the ladies that we know and love, both know and love, probably gave him a hug, and she probably smelled like perfume. But I brought that to your attention because that was something that would normally trigger me because I felt like you shouldn't be having no other woman touching you, hugging you, smelling like perfume, kissing you on your cheek. Well, I'm not insecure in my relationship, but it took practice. It took time to recognize if he go do these things and I'm at home like you shouldn't be doing this, you shouldn't be doing that, then I am very dictative and I am very controlling. We both have the freedom to be who we are. He go visit his friends, I go visit my friends, and it's just that. There's no controlling in that environment. He don't control and I don't control how each one of us spend money, where we go, how we go, what we do. Probably if I was to leave the house today, maybe about 9:30, 9:30. If I'm not home by 9:30, and him like, hey, you stuck on the side of the road, is something going on? It's never to call and check on me to make sure you better be at home. I've never had that in the relationship that I'm in right now. So question is, are you controlling? Are you controlling where your partner go, who they see, or what they do? Or are you being controlled? And if you are, you need to take a look at that relationship. If you are, maybe you want to have a conversation with your partner. Hey, these are red flags. These things stand out for me that maybe this relationship is very controlling. The next one I want to talk about is intensive and alienating. Insensitive, excuse me, I'm trying to read this prompt. Sorry, you guys. Insensitive and alienating behavior. Just insensitive about everything that goes on in your life, not allowing you to do as you choose, very self-centered. Everything is about that person. Abusive, controlling people, everything is about them. The whole world centers around their thoughts, their beliefs, their values, and what they want. If you're in a relationship with a person that really don't care about your thoughts, you might want to take a look at that. And let me tell you what that can look like. You go in a store, you want to purchase a couch, right? Although I'm a female, a lot of times as females, we believe it's our world. The house got to be the way we want it to be. When you're in a relationship with a person, you have to be willing to compromise. And even though you get it your way, you still have to ask. Here's a funny story. One time I was decorating and changing some things around, and I said, hey, babe, what do you think about this? And then he told me what he thought about it. And then I ended up doing something different. And then the first thing he said was, I don't know what you asked me for. You're going to do what you want to do anyway. So I had to really look at that. Like, am I really asking him for his opinion because I want to pretend like I'm being sensitive to his needs and his desires? Or actually, am I doing that because I really, really want to know what he thinks, right? So being insensitive to different types of behaviors. The next one I want to talk about is the jealousy. Jealousy, jealousy, jealousy. So in some relationships, early when you're young, you're thinking jealousy is good. Like, oh, they love me. I must be everything that this person wants. Jealousy is a controlling factor, right? It's a red flag. It's just as red as my top when you have a jealous person. So I used to think early on jealousy was they really love me. They can't live without me. They don't want anyone with me. No, they're dictating, controlling what I do, who I'm around, and how I think. You can't have this person around you. You can't wear this. You can't wear that. There was a time in my abusive relationship where I was all dressed up, walking down the road with my children. They so happened to be in front of me, and I'm in the rear. And I looked nice, you know. And when I was younger, I had a shape out of this world. I had a Coke bottle shape. And I had these shorts on and this nice little top, very presentable and respectful. But my abuser was very jealous. He ran behind me with a cup of bleach and slanged it at me. My outfit was black. He slanged it at me, and I thought it was water because I got water thrown on me so often, all types of things thrown on me so often. And so I just kept walking. You know, the kids were in front, so they didn't see, and I didn't smell it was bleach. So I get around a corner and I get in a store, and this guy at the register said, "Hey, what happened to your clothes?" I was like, "What?" And then he told me, and I turned around and looked, and I had bleach thrown all in the back of my clothes. He was just that upset that I looked nice and that I was going out of the house without him. To me, at that point in time, I was like, oh, he's just jealous because I look good. At that time, I was really, really young, and I did not identify that as being controlling, abusive behaviors. At that point, I had no clue. Today, I know better. I know better. If I want to wear this, I'm going to wear this. I am respectful enough to ask my partner, what do you think about this? How does this look? Because now I'm a mature woman. and I care about what my husband thinks about me. So the next one is quick involvement. Oh my goodness. So many people say love at first sight. Love at first sight. Love is not at first sight. Okay. If okay, if they're looking at you and they say, "Oh my gosh, she's beautiful." Okay, that's the exterior. Yes, I am beautiful. Yes, I have a nice shape, might have a beautiful smile. But you can't fall in love with me when you first see me. That makes absolutely no sense. Why? Because you're falling in love with my exterior, not my interior. Because after 2 weeks of living with me, you're gonna either know you're out or you in. Okay, so another thing is quick involvement is when you meet a person and then they fall in love. Oh, I love you. Like after 2 weeks. That's not love, that's lust. That's obsession. To love a person is to know a person. That quick involvement is a scary thing and it's a red flag, right? You have people move right in your house. Oh, I love and we moved together in 2 weeks. Now, I'm not saying that, at least 98% of the time that quick involvement happened, it goes bad. There are some people who met each other the first day they got married, been married 50, 60 years. Okay, but that's not a common practice. Being involved too fast causes unhealthiness in relationships. You don't really know each other. And then moving in with one another, you get to, he don't put the toilet seat down. She always complaining. She got her makeup all over the place. I mean, so a relationship takes time to build, getting to know each other. During that dating process, ask questions like, what was it like growing up in your home? And you would want to know those things because the way way people are treated as kids affect who they are as an adult, right? I talked about my terrible childhood, and I had a terrible teenage years because I had a terrible childhood. Only because of recovery, therapy, and self-help that I'm a healthier, responsible person today. But had I stayed on that same trail that was given to me from my parents, I would really, really, really be in a dark place. So you want to start having those conversations with your partner. Quick involvement, have sex one time, got a baby now, that's your baby daddy. Or that's your baby mama. Absolutely not. You want to get to know who you are having children with, who you're being intimate with. When was the last time you've taken an HIV test? What was your results? Right? Do you have herpes? These are some of the questions you need to be having when you're falling in love with people when you first meet them. The next one is unrealistic expectations. Now, I'm 51. I expect certain things, period, point blank. As well as there are some things in my life that other people expect from me. Sometimes it's unrealistic. So I'm married and I'm 51 and my husband is 18 years older. Earlier in the relationship, he and I both was kind of equally yoked as a building this, doing this all the time because I'm like trying to get stuff done all the time kind of person. Now, 20 years down the line, he's laid back and relaxed. And I had to learn that my expectations for him to work like I work is unrealistic, right? I realize that he's slowing down. So am I, but he's slowing down a little faster than I am. And I have to be respectful to that and not always want him to work like I do because of my expectations. I used to expect this is my husband. He going to work like I work. We going to tag team everything. It's not realistic. It's just really not. Do you expect your partner to come in and just change because you feel like they should change? That's not realistic. To be in a relationship with a person and you guys are on a journey for healing and changing is something different. But when you get in a relationship with a person, you have to assess who they are. And then you have to decide at that point, is this something that I want to deal with 20, 30, 40 years down the line? Expectations, right? We talked about isolation. And again, be mindful. Allow your partner to go out and have fun and have friends. And if you don't trust that person, do you want to be with them anyway? Something you need to think about. What about this? Blaming others for their problems. Oh, somebody towed my car because you left me 15 years ago. Don't make sense at all. My life sucked because you left me. Or, This person did this. I got fired because of them. I'm arguing with this person because of them. You want a person that have accountability. Do we all make mistakes? We do. We all make mistakes every day, probably most days. However, where is your accountability? Own up to the things that you've done wrong and not point the finger at other people at all, right? Then we have blame others for how you feeling. You made me feel insecure. You made me feel unloved. You made me feel unwanted. Now, I am a female and I have a lot of feelings and emotions every day, all day. And I realized early on, probably like 20, maybe about 15 years ago, that I cannot allow other people to dictate how I feel. I am responsible for the things that I do and the way that I feel. Not my partner, not my friend, not my staff, and not you. I'm responsible. So when I have a day and I feel like, okay, they're not doing this the way I think they should, or he's not showing me the attention I think I need, then I give it to myself. I am the author of my life. I can't allow other people to dictate how I feel. I just cannot. Otherwise, I won't never feel good because people don't do what I think they should none of the time. Cruelty to children or animals. Let's talk about that. Some people, some kids, and it starts a lot of time in childhood. When kids have a lot of trauma growing up, the first thing that they have access to is either other children or animals. And then they start kicking the dog and pulling the cat's ears. And I'm not talking about the simple thing that little babies do. Babies pull tails because they don't know what it is. It's moving. I'm talking about when they're like 7 or 8 and they're still being cruel to animals or to other children. Those are red flags. When you're having a conversation with your partner, find out they don't have to be an animal lover having a dog licking them in the face and all of that stuff. Ugh, I don't like that. But are they being respectful to the animal? Are they kicking the dog? Are they hurting other children? Those are some things that you really, truly, truly want to know. Playful. I keep saying and I used to really hate being playful or rough during sex. Intimacy is meant to be a really beautiful thing, and it can be. But if you're in a relationship and you're telling your partner no, or your partner is telling you no, and you keep moving forward, that's a red flag. It can also teeter over into sexual assault and sexual abuse. So make sure that if you're in an intimate relationship with your partner, that you let them know if it's the things that you don't like or the things that you've never tried and you're willing to try. That's something different. But when you're being forced to do things that you're not interested in doing, then you need to let your partner know, or if your partner tells you no, then you need to respect that, right? That's their body. If they say no, no means no. And most of us was taught that growing up as a child. No means absolutely no. Verbal abuse. You're fat, you ugly, you're a bum, you good for nothing, you're dirty, you stinky. I don't play the dozen. And what the dozen is talking about each other. I don't like it. I'm not that type of person. My husband says that I'm sensitive when it comes to that. My auntie says I'm sensitive. The kids say I'm a dud. Whatever. Don't talk about me jokingly because I feel like that's what you really mean. And if I feel like you're talking about me in a way, then I'll just X X X you out of my life. I have zero tolerance for that. I've been raised as a kid. I've had a lot of people that call me fat, ugly, skinny, stupid, dumb, retarded. Who wants to hear that? So I don't play that way. I don't say look at you, look at your big head. None of those things. And sometimes in relationships that verbal abuse happens when you're mad at each other, calling each other out of their name. I've been with my husband 21 years and he's never called me a bitch. Right? Never, ever, 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 ever. And I used to think that that was unheard of. I used to think that everybody get called that. That's what happens in a relationship. But that's not the truth. I haven't been called that in my relationship. And I have to tell you, it was kind of strange up front. I was waiting for it to happen, like it's going to happen eventually. We're going to argue and fight. That's not my story, you guys. I've had an opportunity to understand what a healthy relationship is. And I'm not saying that it's perfect, but I'm saying that it's healthy in a lot of areas, much more than I could ever imagine. Okay. Rigid sex roles, forcing you to do certain roles. Now, the conversation is about this is women are should do this and men should do that. And when you're being intimate with your partner, I feel like there's no holds barred. If I can agree and you can agree, let's swing, right? Some people feel like the woman should do this and the male should do that in rigid roles. The woman should cook, the woman should clean, the woman should do the laundry. I totally disagree. That is a red flag 100. You stay home and watch the kids while I go to work. That's a red flag. Red flag. Men cook. Actually, my husband cook better than I do. I'm okay with that. I think that in our home, our roles are definitely shifted because I like to do the fixing the building, all of those things, and he cooked really, really well. He also fixed things, and I do cook, but not as much as my husband does. And so there's no rigid roles in my household because I'm I'm not a rigid type of person. My father said I was to never need a man, only want a man. So I have a husband that I want, but I could do everything, most things for myself. Paint, fix cars, build, clean, cook, electrical wiring. I could do all that stuff myself. So I never had to need a man for a rigid role. I want a man and I want my husband. So be clear about that. You don't, that rigid role. You got to do this. A woman's place is at home. I remember being told that I was only good for laying on my back, and because I have 9 children, and I believe totally different. I am so good in so many other areas. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. One minute they're this way, the next minute they're that way, or you, right? Because especially if you're hormonal, if every month when your cycle comes you start flipping out, take some menopause medication. Take some I can't think the name of it, but they got a pill for that. Take the pill, and your hormones will be balanced, and you won't be treating your husband or your boyfriend crazy every month at that point in time, because eventually he gonna leave. I'm not putting up with it. Anybody want to put up with all of that abusive stuff just because you're on your cycle, right? Previous abusive relationships. That's definitely a red flag. Now, I've been blessed with the opportunity to work with women who's been in abusive relationships. And a lot of times it's a vicious cycle. So if you start to date a person and they told you that they've been in a previous abusive relationship, I'm not saying that they're tainted or they've been, they're damaged, if you will. But what I am saying is you want to be mindful and you want to really watch out. It depends on what it is that they've done and how did the relationship end, which is a really good question. So a question would be, as I asked my husband, how did you guys separate it? My husband said we kind of grew apart because I kind of was messing up. I love that. Not one time did he talk bad about, his ex-wife. I appreciated that because it let me know if we separate and go our way, I'm not going to be that B that you hear from people like, I broke up from him because he was this and he was that and he was that. How about we grew apart and things just, we went on our way? That showed me, and that's why it's identified as a red flag. If a person says, oh, that B did this and she did this, she tore my car up, we had a big old fight, the kids went to the foster care, run. That's a red flag. That's a red flag. Threats of violence. If you're dating a person and you go to a restaurant and they're arguing with the waiter, they're arguing with the person who parking the car, and that's a red flag. Or they're very disrespectful to the people around them. You can tell how people are when you hang out with them just for a little bit of time, right? You go to a restaurant, they arguing, they complaining about everything. That's a red flag. That's a major red flag. Breaking items. You have that person that you love, but when they get mad, they throw things. That's scary, right? Because one day you might get hit with something. And for a long time, got that from my mother. When my kids were young, before they went in foster care, that was some of the things that my mom would do. She would just hum something across the room, phew, and it would go around the corner and hit you, boom, right upside your head. And so when my kids was little, I had a big habit until they went in foster care, and they said, you don't throw things at your kids. I was like, okay, nobody ever told me that, because that's what I received. And so adults having tantrums destroy and break things. That's just what it is. You know how when you're a little kid and you get mad and you just start stomping and throwing stuff? That is an adult sized tantrum when you get upset and start throwing and breaking items. Not to mention, you have to replace them, right? So why would you break and destroy your things? And the last one that I want to cover is any force during an argument is a red flag. So you having a conversation with your partner, you guys are having a disagreement. An argument is not a bad thing. They have arguments in the court at the end. That's what it's called. It's a disagreement. You're disagreeing, but it's considered the closing argument or the open argument. Okay? So you can have those disagreements with your partner, but it's the respect factor that you must put in the forefront. You have to respect their opinion. You have to respect their values. You have to respect whatever they're believing. And then as a partner, you want to be able to compromise with some of the things that they mention. But if you have a person that don't respect the argument, it gets aggressive or forceful, or a person standing over you, pushing you, shoving you, trying to force you to see things their way, that is a red flag. So I mentioned like 18 or 19 red flags. If any of these things stand out to you and you're in a relationship, I want to encourage you to speak to your partner, your boss, your children, your friends, if any of these things, because this can go cross relationships, not just with your partner, but with other people. And if any of these things stand out for you or you are experiencing them in your relationship, I want to encourage you to talk to them. And then at some point, if things don't change, you have to take a look at that relationship. And parents, even if it's your kids, sometimes you have to disconnect from them in a way to let them know you do not get to treat me that way, right? Your siblings, you do not get to treat me that way. Your partner, you do not get to treat me that way. You're the only one that can stand firm for what you believe in. So today, we've covered red flags. Again, if something stood out for you, please leave comments. Share this video. It may not be for you, but it may be for someone else. Share the video so someone else can get the information that may save their life. My name is Toyia Hampton. Thank you so much for tuning in to Red Flags, and I am your host. See you again next week.